Hey, welcome back to another video. My name's Bruce, and in this one I'm going to show you how I made this cake stand out of a tree stump. If this one looks a little bit different than the thumbnail you clicked on, that's because it is. This is for a client, and I didn't want to run the risk of my poor baking skills getting icing or something all over this that I couldn't clean up. I built another one, and it's for my family, but that's why the picture looks a little bit different than the thumbnail you clicked on. Enough of that, let me show you how I made this. To start out, I needed to fit my router to this new flattening jig that I've got. It has an acrylic plate that you mount it to, and then that gets mounted to the aluminum pieces that go on the sliders. I am grabbing a log. I had a customer order a big cake stand. I'm gonna make it out of a cookie. This is just some firewood that we had, some red oak. And I'm trying to find one that's nice and round so it will do well for this. But I'm gonna dig one of these out of here. Watch for snakes because it's pretty warm today, and then we'll cut a little cookie off of it. All right, I'm back in my shop. I've got the cookie here. You saw that I went and had to cut a couple pieces out at my dad's land. I ended up with 3 cookies, so maybe I can do some other stuff with this. But I've got my router set up on the flattening jig, and I actually had to build these rails to raise my flattening jig up a little bit to make sure it would clear the stump. Now I'm just gonna squirt a little bit of hot glue on here to secure it down. And this jig is really good. I'll leave links below to Brent at Clean Cut Woodworking. This is his design, and he sells these, so I'll leave links to his Instagram. If you're interested in that, just go over there and shoot him a DM. But yeah, let's get to flattening this thing. All right, at this point, I have this side flattened. It did a pretty good job. Now I'm going to pop it loose from the hot glue and flip it over, referencing on that flat bottom now on my workbench, and then I'll proceed to flatten the other side. And I don't know the final dimension I'm gonna end up with on this thing, probably about 5 inches, but I'm gonna see once I get it flat how much is left to kind of get at that range and kind of go from there. Rather than actually have the laser cut it, I decided on this one to just mark the line on the leather, and then I would actually just cut it out with a knife myself. So that's what I'm gonna do. Then I'm going to secure it to the stump after doing a little bit of sanding on it with some bronze tacks. I didn't mask this leather, so there's a little bit of smoke stain here. You can kind of see a little bit just where, as it's burning, the smoke gets on some of it. This leather already has a nice polish to it, so I don't really want to use any denatured alcohol or anything like that because I think it might change the color of the leather a little bit. I'm just going to use a cotton towel and kind of burnish some of that off, and because this leather has a nice polish to it, I think it will just kind of wipe off that smoke stain. So I'm going to give that a go. Now I'm ready to put some finish on this stump. I'm gonna start with the bottom real quick. It doesn't really need much. I just want it to have some coverage. And for this, I'm going with this distilled walnut oil. I use this on a lot of cutting boards and food safe items. This one doesn't necessarily have to be that food safe because they're gonna put like a piece of cardboard or something protective between the cake and the stump, just in case. But I thought about using like a wiping polyurethane, but I think that's gonna take too long to dry because most of those don't look good unless you have at least a couple of coats on it. And they're like 12 hours of dry time in between. So I don't want to do that. I think this will bring the colors of this stump to life really well, and I'm just going to go with this. All right, the last thing to do on this stump is to take the leather piece that I engraved and put it on here and then secure it with a tack hammer using these upholstery tacks. I've got kind of these bronze colored upholstery tacks. Put one in every corner, should be enough to secure it, and I think it'll look cool. All right, this is the show face here, so I want to make sure to lay it down like that. And with upholstery tacks, it's important to use some needle nose pliers. I've got these little bitty ones that are for crafting that seem to work pretty well. So you just hold the tack like that, and that way you're not having as much of a chance of bending them over because you're holding them properly. And then I just use a tack hammer and put them in. I'm gonna leave it not super tight until I get all of them in there so I can kind of readjust if I need to. And I'm using some wooden screw clamps to hold this thing vertical. It's going to help it not roll off the workbench. But let's get another one here. And I like to start on one side of the leather patch like this and kind of work my way across. That way you're introducing, less chance of a ripple across here. You don't want it to look perfect because kind of the point of this is for it to look rustic, but you also don't want a big wrinkle right down the middle of your piece. So then you can kind of just pull all the slack out like this, put it in there where you want it, tack it in. Now that it's got three, I'm going to go ahead and tack them down a little bit harder. Okay. One more and we will have this thing done. So that is how you make a stump cake stand. This thing turned out awesome. It had lots of spalting in it, and ended up having to take the bark off of this one. This log had sat on the ground for a little bit, and that's where all of the bugs end up. I really like the way it came out, really like the way this plaque looks. The leather on the side looks really sharp. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll leave links below to all the stuff that I use, so if you're interested in any of that, be sure to click those links. If you feel like I earned it, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next video.